Hi there, and welcome to another battle report. Today I played in a Alamo GT primer held at Tabletop, which is our local gaming shop that I go to and play Kings of War at. Anyway, I just wanted to show you the army and tell you what's in it, and then we will go ahead and get to my first of 3 games today played at Tabletop. I had a great day, had a good time, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the reports. So here we go. There's the army. That's the big shot of it. You'll notice that I've now successfully multi-based my units, and I had a lot of fun doing that, and I'm really glad I did it, and I don't think I'll ever go back. Here's the army from the left-hand side. On the far left, I've got my army standard bearer. I gave him the healing charm. I've got 2 regiments of ironclad there in the front. Behind them, they've got the Earth Elemental Horde, and then their buddy, the Greater Earth Elemental. Both of them looked after by the Stone Priest, who you can sort of see behind both units. To the Greater Elemental's left, I've got my King and a Large Beast. He's got the Blade of Slashing. And then I've got a horde of Shieldbreakers, and I've got a Berserker Brock Rider Regiment with the Potion of Strength. They've got some buddies in a troop next to them, and behind them they've got the Berserker Brock Lord with the Blade of the Beast Slayer, a couple of Organ Cannons, and a Flame Cannon. So the magic items on the other magic item that I had, I've got the Scrying Gem on the Stone Priest. So in total I've got 14 drops plus the Scrying Gem. I'm feeling pretty good about deployment, and I've got a pretty good variety of units, so I'm feeling pretty good about this particular list. My first opponent is Todd. He's playing his Ratkin. Excuse me while I take a drink. Jack Daniels and Diet Coke. Very tasty. All right. On his left, he's got whatever the hell the Doom Wheel equivalent is that he bought. He's got a horde of Rat Warriors and a Rat Wizard behind them, backing them up. His center is where most of his power is. He's got 2 regiments of the little baby rat chaff things, a couple of flame cannons, a couple of wizards who cast lightning bolts. Behind them, he's got shock troops with the brew of sharpness. Then he's got the screaming bell equivalent. I don't actually know what it is. It shoots things. And next to them, he's got a horde of warriors. He's got another horde of shock troops behind them with Pathfinder. He's got a unit of slaves. Now, we were supposed to play this particular game closed list, but of course Todd and I were just sort of hanging out, setting up before the tournament, and passed our sheets to each other so we knew what each other had, but we didn't tell each other which was which when we started deploying units, so I wasn't sure which had +1 and which one had Pathfinder, but I was pretty sure the guys on the right-hand side there, as I look at them near the forest, had Pathfinder. That's his deployment from the right-hand side. Again, he doesn't have anything far right. I outdeployed him by a little bit. The Scrying Gem helped a lot with that. I think I outdeployed him by 1 or 2 units, maybe more. Anyway, so I decided to augment the right-hand side. That hill there is just a hill. It's just the terrain we had available, so it's not impassable or anything like that, even though they've got the stones on top of it. I've got my Berserker Brock Riders and the troop and their lord on the strong right-hand side. I've got both of my ironclad units there looking at the hill. I've got my Shieldbreaker unit there opposite or just behind that impassable, backed up with a flame cannon and the army standard bearer. My center is usually, as usual, Earth Elementals on the left-hand side of the center, looking right across there to that token. I'll talk about the tokens in a second. And then to their left, I've got the 2 organ cannons, and they're nice and butted up against that impassable, so their flank is at least protected, forcing him to approach them more or less from the front. The scenario that we're playing is apparently we wake up in the morning and we're hungry. Those tokens represent breakfast tacos, and we want to go get them. They're just objectives. It's a loot scenario with a little bit of a modification. So there are the 3 loot tokens across the center line like normal, but now there's also coffee tokens in our own deployment zone. If you look, you'll see mine behind the swamp where my Earth Elementals are hanging out. They're not worth anything to you, and you're not allowed to pick them up, but if your opponent gets them, they're worth 2 points to them, which made this for a kind of an interesting scenario. So he gets the first turn, and this is his movement. He begins a pretty careful approach up the middle. He's trying to make sure that his shooting is maximized, and he's trying to protect himself from the organ guns on the left-hand side. So he shifts up just a little bit. He can get a little bit into range just to see what I'll do. He does some shooting. He manages to put a couple of wounds on my Greater Earth Elemental, but of course he's fine. Then it's my turn. He passes the turn over to me. I go ahead and move my Brocks up onto the hill, putting them both into charge range of his warrior unit, and I have the Berserker Brock Lord over there on the right-hand side backing them up. I bring up the 2 units of Ironclad in order to have them advance once the Brocks move and grab the objective. And then I've got my shield breakers, who are going to break to the right-hand side of that impassable terrain in the middle as my elementals advance slowly towards the center taco. I actually advanced my organ cannons up a little bit just to sort of threaten to shoot with them. I figured one of 2 things would happen. I would draw fire away from some of my other units from his lightning bolts, in which case, okay. And if not, I could start taking shots at his center or at the left-hand side, depending on what he decided to do. And there's a little bit of a closer view on the right. The Berserker Brock Rider troop is just enough off the hill to where they are no longer in the other one's way, and we're good to go. And this is just a view of my shooting, I think. There's no real target this turn, unfortunately, but it's a good threat, and it's sort of forcing his hand in terms of movement. And he grabs the taco on my left-hand side and advances with his warrior horde backed up by his wizard. I think somebody back there either providing inspiring or providing lightning. I forget. His rat chaff start moving up. His shooting starts to position itself to start taking on the things to my right, to the right-hand side of the pillar, and he begins to move his hordes up a bit. He moves his slaves up, but he doesn't successfully chaff up my Berserker Brock Riders at all with them, so I'm not really sure what he was thinking there. I think this was a mistake. He probably should have either charged or just got directly in the way of the Brock Riders to buy himself a turn, but he didn't, and I was okay with that. He does a bunch of shooting. I think that's maybe why he wanted to shoot the Brock Riders. He thought he'd remove that regiment, but they're a -16. They're hard to pull off. He did 8 wounds to them, and either on the reroll he got a 3, or on the first roll he got a 3. In either case, he did nothing. He didn't break them or waver them. His other shooting manages to do like 7 wounds to the Shieldbreaker regiment. He rolled great and did a bunch of wounds to them, already sort of putting them back on their heels. Yeah, I know it's a horde, I know they have a 23 in terms of their nerve, but it doesn't take much to put them in range of a decent roll, and he was already well on his way to do so. On the left-hand side, I just want to sort of give that view. I took my Greater Earth Elemental, refaced him, and moved him towards the flank of the enemy. I figure I might be able to get a nice long surge into their flank, and if not, no big deal. If he goes into my organ cannon, I'll just turn the Greater Elemental around and charge them, and hopefully do enough to stop them or stymie them. I've also got my other elementals that can do something similar, so I'm still pretty okay with the left-hand side. I'm a little nervous about the center. He can pick up that unit, or he can pick up that central taco. That might be tough, but I do have my lord there, my king there, and he can handle both of those rat units pretty okay, so I think I'm alright. I double charge into his group of warriors. I charge my Brock Lord into the slaves. I move my Ironclad up towards the objective. I move my shield breakers up and stick their flank on the impassable. And there we go. That is just a view of the center line and my Stone Priest about to surge my elemental. And this is just another view of the right-hand flank. Nothing really impressive or in particular here going on. The organ guns go ahead and open fire on the warrior horde. They actually rolled great and did a ton of wounds to that unit. Just lots of hits, lots of wounds. So I did something like 17 wounds or 18 wounds to them. It was pretty crazy. And they were sitting there pretty heavily wounded, and now I was feeling pretty confident that I would get a waiver result, or I would get even a rout, which would be fantastic, because then I could just go pretty much collect that taco at my whim and not even fight these guys. There's my standard bearer. I think he cast a heal. Yeah, he healed, or he tried to heal the shield breakers and failed. I forget. Anyway. My surge did not get the greater elemental into the flank. That's fine. I'm still comfortable with that. I got him closer to me, and that's good. And then I rolled to try to break that unit, and of course rolled snake eyes. Ah well, can't have all the luck. They're alive, they're happy, they're good to go next turn, no waiver. Yep, that's the way it crumbles. Very brave rats. In the center, I went ahead and did a ton of wounds to the warriors and routed them. And I wavered the slave unit with just my Brock Lord. He's really great. there's the battlefield, or how it looks anyway. I advanced up my Brox a little bit, and just kind of reformed my Berserker Brox to take the inevitable charge from the shock troops. That concerned me actually quite a bit. All of his shooting is there too, so I'm not real confident about my center right now. And there's just another shot of all of his center guys just waiting to kick my butt with shooting. His wheel goes ahead and charges into the Greater Earth Elemental, and then he charges the organ cannon as well with his very, very wounded horde. He burns off the Berserker Brock troop and does a few wounds to the Berserker Brock riders. His wavered guys can't do anything there. I was actually really surprised he didn't just charge the Berserker Brock riders in this moment. I think he would have been better off charging them just to put a bunch more wounds on them and to contain them. He does some wounds to the Greater Earth Elemental but does not destroy it. He destroys the organ cannon and turns around to face the Earth Elemental. And this is the results of his mistake of not charging into the Brock Riders. I had a flank charge on his Brew of Sharpness horde of shock troops. I had just enough to get into the flank without going corner to corner, so the Brocks go into the flank. You can imagine how that plays out. My Berserker Brock Lord runs over from the right-hand side to the center and charges a flame cannon. He's going to start making a mess out of the war machines and the individuals on that side of the board. My Greater Earth Elemental can freely rotate and charge into that unit, that heavily wounded unit, so I figured that's worth my time. I about face on my other elementals, do a 90-degree turn, and advance 5 inches to get pretty close to that wheel. I need 4 successes to get in, and on a surge, and I'm hoping. So there's how that looks. And I get the surge off, and they do get into the front, which is great. In the center, I start making that mess. His little rat chaff picks up the tacos, and my king is very hungry and would like to take them from him. Take them from them. Take it from them. Whatever. Anyway. And I try to heal my Brock Riders. I get one of those wounds off from last turn shooting. I destroy the wounded horde and reform, getting ready to flank that wheel if it survives the elemental onslaught. And guess what? It's going to survive the elemental onslaught. These elementals frequently will roll for crap to hit, and I got 4 hits, I think, this turn, or something like that, and did just like a handful of wounds. It wasn't very good. On this side, I reform, and after destroying that horde and face that bell, which is great. I'm super excited about that. But in my excitement, I make a fatal error and put just the tippy bit of my corner into the charge arc of that other horde of shock troops, giving him an open flank. Be careful. Let that be a lesson. Anyway, that's him, and then we did a whole bunch of searching, and we used a little laser pointer, and yep, it was in the corner. I think we might have rolled to it because it was super tight, but in retrospect, he had it, and it was fine. For some reason, just going back to here, he had wavered my unit of Ironclad. Or maybe that's just the waiver token from the slaves. That's right. I charged my Ironclad, the lead Ironclad unit, into his slaves who had been wavered and destroyed them and reformed to face the shock troops. My other unit grabbed the objective. Now that makes sense. Again, failed to kill the Doom Wheel. And there's the inevitable flank and destruction of my Berserker Brock Riders. He charges into the elementals. That won't go very well for him. This is me having picked up the taco. He's going to try and shoot them. I love my choice of splitting my Ironclad horde that I usually take into 2. These guys do exactly what I want them to do. They can chaff because they're only 110 points. They can pick up objectives and hold on to them fairly well. They have a defense 5, so they can hold off hordes depending on the horde. They can just do a lot of work, and these guys did really well, in particular this game for me. Yeah, here's that flank again, just to rub it in. He did some shooting and did some wounds to my lord too, which sucks. He destroys them, and he destroys the Berserker Brock Riders and reforms. This is a very blurry picture of sort of how the right-hand side looks. My job right now is to protect that taco token at all costs. I start trying to kill things in the center. I have all 3 taco tokens now. Down below, what you're not seeing is that my Earth Elementals killed the rats that grabbed the taco and picked up the 3rd token. My king, leaving my king free to charge into heroes and flame cannons and all that stuff in the middle. So my Brocklord and the king are just eliminating the shooting that could eventually threaten that ironclad unit that has the 3rd taco token on the right. Yeah, there's my elementals after having, I think they reformed and killed the rats and got the token. There's another blurry picture. My apologies. This is sort of a broader scale look at the way the board looks right now. Things are looking pretty good for me. I've got all 3 tokens sort of on my side and pretty well protected. Now it's just a matter of what can I kill and what can you do to stop him from killing me. He charges into the unit of Ironclad as expected with his shock troops. Shock troops are so great. And he does some wounds to my unit of Ironclad, but does not waver or break them. My Berserker Lord has had some wounds put onto him. He may die by the end of the game, I don't remember. My king has killed a flame cannon and is beginning to work his way over. He hurt my Ironclad, but did not break them. So he... how did that work out? I don't know. I'm not sure how that worked out. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on. He can't get through. I've got my flame cannon up there, and he can't get to that other unit, even though he's got charge radius. My Greater Earth Elementals decides to eliminate this single rat that's still out there. And here's my Lesser Elementals hanging out in the middle of the board, eating their tacos. I take the Berserker Lord, I put it in the way of the Horde, and then I also put my Flame Cannon in the way of the Horde. If he charges my Berserker Bark Rider, he'll kill him, he'll overrun into the Flame Cannon, and if we only go, and this is the bottom of 6, so, or the top of 6, so that'll stop him completely from getting into that unit of Ironclad. He must have killed them in the unit the time that he got into combat with them. That's right. For some reason those pictures were out of order. My apologies. He killed the unit of Ironclad and then reformed, and then I did this to block him. My Lord, I put my king into the side of the bell, which was stupid. I should have put him into that hero, popped the hero, and then overran into the side of the bell. That was potentially a fatal mistake, but I did do some decent wounds to it, but I didn't stop it other than stop it from shooting, which was useful. He rolled a 6 for something. Maybe for shots? I don't know. Anyway, he took shots at the Ironclad. I think he did wounds. Maybe I healed some wounds and he put some more wounds back on. In either case, all he did was waver them. And that was the end of the game. So that was the end of turn 6. He wound up wavering the Ironclad, which didn't destroy them. I had 3 tokens. He had no tokens. I didn't get to his taco token, so I couldn't score a 20. I wound up getting like a 16, and he got a 4. So with that in hand, I waited for my second round to begin.